Board of Trustee meeting for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. Is there a motion to open tonight's meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Rosen, Asher, all in favor? Meeting is hereby open. You'll notice that Trustee Sullivan is appearing virtually. Her location has been properly noticed. And can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a couple of items that are held over from the workshop meeting, so I just want to get to those. So one of the first items we were going to discuss in the workshop was the Gould Park bathhouse and the next steps. So, Rob, do you want to just lead us on that? I know Kendra's somewhere. There she is. Kendra's here. So, Rob, do you want to take us on that?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Kendra's here. Now that the building is out, we want to start as soon as possible on the planning for the next building, the needs, so we basically start our discussion of where we want to be, hopefully next year at this time, between all the design and funding and insurance recoveries, et cetera. But in terms of needs, I guess, Kendra, if you want to mention, if there's anything that you have any particular needs for the new building, just to start the discussion.
We know how you love going to the mic, but you're going to have to go to the mic.
I don't have any specific needs. I just want to kind of get the ball rolling and see if we can hire an architect and kind of start the planning process. If we don't, I'm afraid we're going to run into kind of the same scenario that we did this year, where we're going to have to use trailer bathrooms, and the health department kind of already warned us that this is temporary and they wouldn't allow them for next year. So if we could start moving, that would be great.
Okay, so rather, is it just as simple as hiring an architect, Rob or Laura Lee?
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah. Of course, what the Department of Health will require is that there's a proposal, a design, that there's been some activity based up. Obviously, you can't complete the project before the beginning of the season next year, but they're looking for some forward momentum in terms of decision-making as to what you're proposing to do, where you are in the process. I don't know that you've talked amongst yourselves in public in terms of what you're hoping to accomplish in that space now that's been vacated. And we are still waiting for final decisions from the insurance company on whether they'll be paying for that second round of demolition. I'm not sure it's been made clear yet.
So I had a strategy for starting to, for all of us to understand this, which is to propose a couple of options to our engineering consultant for some broad base estimates for possibilities of what could replace the old building. On the one hand, I think there's a sort of basic need that needs to be met, which is the pool facilities, bathrooms, showers for the pool. And on the other end of the spectrum, there is looking forward the next 100 years of Gould Park building and what that facility would entail and whether this board wants to undertake that larger project. So I think that we should understand the scope of possibilities and what those respective costs are. And then we would hire an architect to design the project with the program that we define. I think it's, without having that, I don't think any design professional is going to know what to do with our
So you think we
hole in the ground.
Do you think we should meet as a board first, or have the rec department come to us, or the staff, in conjunction with the engineer, saying this is what, in addition to the bathroom and the shower, meaning the rec department needs storage, or they need something for camp, and then put that all together, and then?
I have talked to Kendra about that, and I've been working on a couple of sketches that Anthony Oliveri can use for the purposes of budgeting that would get us to the point of a initial conversation for the various possibilities of what this new building.
Okay,
Can
I
be.
mean, that's
Well,
fine.
So
Can I just weigh in? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say, I think that there's like, it's kind of two pieces. I agree with Michael and that it's necessary to look at the lower building and what like the village's goal would be for that. If we want to build like, a proper complex for camp and pool and sports and whatever. But I think, which is question is like whether that includes the upper building too. Like, should they be connected again? Or if it should, the bathhouse for the pool should be separate. There's also a big issue with bathrooms at Gould Park since the pool was reconstructed because the Department of Health made us move the bathrooms inside the pool complex. And so I think there needs to be some sort of decision, in the next couple of months on whether the upper building would be just a bathhouse and then have external access to bathrooms that when the pool's closed, or anytime when the pool's, if you're not a pool member, if you're at the playground, you can just use the bathroom. Or if it's going to be one big building and the bathrooms are going to be put in for general public use, not pool use at a later time. And then do we need something else for the playground and the lower part of Gould? Because there just hasn't been a public bathroom for quite a long time now.
Mayor, if I can just add, the village engineering company did reach out to us. They have, in the New York office, they have a set of architects. They've worked on these type of buildings before. So he might lead us in the right direction in terms of answering those questions based on need, bathrooms, upper, lower, both, either, those kind of questions. Again, this is all the beginning of the discussions, so maybe he can help point us in the right direction.
The point I was going to make was exactly that the rec commission should weigh in on this. It should be part of the broader plan.
Right.
So Nicole made the point better.
Okay, so let's do that, then the rec, you and even the Parks and Rec Commission and the Rec Department can get together, decide what your needs are, what you would love to have, what you could live with, what you could live without, and then, Rob, you could work it out with the engineering firm and with, understanding that you'll come back to us, and then we'll decide which way to go, okay?
I'm the liaison to RAC, so I'll be involved. But Mike, I think you should join the meeting with us because you've been working on it. We've all been talking about it together, and we can finally finish Gould Park.
Yeah, you just tell me when the next one is, or I can just share stuff with you as we go along.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Before, I know Mike, you had something else about Gould Park that you wanted to bring up, so I think now's a good place to bring that up.
Today's site meeting at the park, we discussed the possibility of adding a irrigation sprinkler system and sodding the part of the upper park outside of the pool. So construction should be finished around, we say July 10th?
Like mid-July, that was
Mid-July. The contract has in it seeding of the field, so that's around the tree, around the playgrounds, around the basketball courts. But that doesn't give us grass, usable grass for the summer season. If it's dry, if, things don't go quite right, we're not going to have it there. The cost for that is around $100,000. There's two other elements that I think we should keep in mind. The site conditions throughout the winter and early spring, the requirements for the dewatering that's pulling all the extra groundwater out of the locations where they were working, has a pending change order of about $100,000. We included in our budget a line item for unforeseen circumstances. It was included in the budget. That's not the contingency of $100,000, of which there's about 65 to 70,000 left. Now, I don't think we should just assume we're not going to use any of that money, but it could be coming back. It's money that we likely won't have to spend. So we had two change orders at the last meeting. We have one that is necessary because that work was done. It was generally approved, but there's some minor issues need to get worked out. The question of the sod and the irrigation is not a necessary one. So it's a change order we decide to do because we think it's going to make the project better sooner. I think it's a good idea, but I wanted to bring it to everyone so that we could give direction, and that work can either start now or not happen.
There's an irrigation for the whole park?
Not the lower field.
That's already, it has irrigation already, I'm assuming.
The construction site.
Construction site.
This
So
is the
the
construction
whole-
site.
The whole thing.
The whole
Construction.
upper,
Right.
the whole upper Gould.
Okay, yeah, it seems to me that should be part of it. What do you
We
guys think?
we were not going to have a sprinkler system. That wasn't part of the plan originally.
No, was not.
So
I'm surprised by that.
what would happen if we didn't do it? We would have, let's say we had gotten the seed in time, we would just have dried grass, or
You have to actively water.
You have to actively water it,
there are
DPW has to go out with the
there are
truck.
costs associated with that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't want to say it's oversight, it was a way to keep the budget under control. It probably wasn't the best decision at the time. I wish we had talked about this. I didn't realize that was not part of the contract. I learned that today. I want to do the right thing.
It seems to me that if it had come up earlier, we would have approved it as part of the
Yes.
I think so. And I don't, there's no, it's not costing us more to make this decision now than it would have to make that decision a year ago. It's simply the grounds, it's open now. We can do it. There,
There's another
additional
reason
work
to-
has schedule implications, so there's probably going to add a few extra days to the project completion, but
There's
now
another good reason to do the irrigation system, and that is if we do decide that we want a sod, and we don't put an irrigation system in, and it is dry, then we will have lost $100,000
yeah, you can't,
worth of
you
sod.
can't do the sod without the irrigation. It's like
Do we
it's
have-
either,
Okay,
Do we
so
have
what
to
do we
do
need
the
to go
sod?
forward
Like,
now?
what's the cost of the sod? I mean, I agree with the sprinkler system. I said that last week when I went to the meeting because it's already open and we're not going to reopen it any time in the next 60 or 70 years. But how much is the sod?
the sod independent of the irrigation.
Yeah.
I think it was 75 cents a square. I can't, I remember,
Yeah,
do you have the breakdown?
Yeah, out of the 100,000, the irrigation was about 45,000 subcontracted.
Yeah.
So the remaining is
Sod's
everything else.
55.
Sod, the delivery, the sod, the installation, materials, lime, et cetera.
We reviewed a tentative change order this morning, which needed some clarification, so we've asked the engineer to send that to us, and maybe we'll have that tomorrow. The next day, Rob can circulate it. But I just wanted to get everyone's consensus. Is this money well spent? If you all agree, we'll give Rob some direction so that he can just proceed with this. And we'll approve the final change order, but it's in the realm, it's about $100,000.
But even without the,
Well,
like,
Jeff, yeah.
I'm just concerned. I'm fine with doing both, but I'm just concerned, like, the ground's open now. We really want this to be done by mid-July. If we wait like another week or so to like figure out the change order and all that, is that going to delay the opening by mid-July? Like, is there a way just to speed the process to get the sprinkler system in?
That's why I hijacked this meeting.
Is there a lead time on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if we tell Rob tonight, go forward with it, we let Anthony negotiate the remaining item is like $2,000 or $3,000. So we can release all of it but that needed for the change order.
Sherry, how do you feel about it?
I don't really have any strong feelings about it. I don't know enough about sod or, whatever, so.
You're talking both components, or are you talking the 45K for the irrigation and holding up on sod? Or
No, I'm talking, we approve both. I think that the clarification on the change order, to address Nicole's point, is a very minor component of this $100,000. That's why I'm saying approximate. There's the number we saw this morning was 101 and something, and I think there's some further negotiation on that. So it might come down a couple $1,000s, but what we want to do is give them direction on proceeding with this. And we can tell Anthony tomorrow morning, we'd like you to solve this problem immediately and get us the change order to sign so that they can proceed with the
So I think the
irrigation plan.
consensus is to go forward with that.
And just one other note, I would add also, it's a timing, this is not really grass planting season, so even if you put the irrigation with the seed, it probably won't take until October or even next season. So
Okay.
it's a timing situation.
Okay, so I think we've all said that we're in favor of it, so, okay, let's move forward with it. Okay, the next item is an update on the RFQ submissions regarding affordable housing projects at the Palisade Cedar Street parking lot, Cedar Street parcels 41-2 and Cedar Street parcel 41-4. I know there's been a task force, I know you guys have been meeting, so Rob, you want to take the lead on it, then Matt and Mike, you guys could chip in?
We had a meeting today at 2 with the subcommittee. 3 trustees sit on that subcommittee, and after the interviews were conducted over 2 consecutive days on June 3rd and June 4th, and the subcommittee now is talking about next steps, reaching out to the references that were provided in the responses for the 4 proposed entities who are still sort of in the mix. And the subcommittee is looking to get some more apples-to-apples information on the 4 entities, and then they're hoping to narrow it down to no more than 2, but it's a hard task, so then those would be referred to you for scheduling of interviews. The interviews would qualify for executive session, so you would need to open a public meeting for the sole purposes of entering into executive session for those interviews, because they involve the acquisition or transfer of real property in the ownership of the village. So they're moving along. Valerie's working very diligently to collect the information and to grid apples to apples, and then those entities will be recommended to you for the follow-up interviews
Anything you
by
want
the
to
full
add, Matt?
board.
Well, okay, Valerie, you want to add?
Sure. Sure. Because you have just a single meeting in July and a single meeting in August, and in order to keep this moving forward, it has been suggested that the July 9th meeting that you no longer have on your calendar might be an appropriate night to hold a special meeting for purposes of entering into executive session for the interviews that we know inevitably will be coming. So we wanted to check to see availability of the 7 board members for that date. The 9th was the date we talked about today in this subcommittee. Thank you.
I'm in Iceland,
How convenient.
not available.
I might be available electronically. I will not be physically here in town.
I won't be either. I'll be in California for another hearing.
Nicole, you will not be available, or you are?
I could possibly be available by Zoom, but I'll be in California for another hearing.
Okay, Jessica?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Mike's here.
I'm available.
Okay. Okay, do you want to add anything to what they just said?
No, only that, you know, the real goal here is to reduce the number of entities that the full board has to interview. What we will be seeing is likely a presentation of some very preliminary plans, just to get a more of a feel for the potential partnership that would be in the offing, but there's nothing that is, there's not specific proposals on the table, all those will.
I would prefer not to miss it, because I'm very interested in this, and, you know, I planned a vacation, so it wouldn't interfere
Sure.
with a
So
meeting,
if,
so.
maybe we could come up with another date, maybe the following Tuesday? We could, why don't we do,
A doodle.
a doodle, thank you.
And not to present too much of a spoiler, but I just want everyone to know, we had 4 excellent candidates with a kind of an interesting range of possibilities that they presented to us. And so it's very encouraging to see, 1, how much intense interest there is, and 2, how these various groups think it can be successful on different scales, so to speak. So it just gives us a lot of flexibility when it comes to exactly how we want to craft this project if it does go forward. So
That's great.
it's just, all in all, was a really nice, you know.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
Great.
but with a statement that I'm in favor of developing more affordable housing in the village, I don't know that we as a board have decided that all or any of these parcels are the right places to do that.
Right.
And I think we need to have that conversation before we go too far down the road with specific plans for specific developments.
These aren't going to be specific
Yeah.
plans.
Right.
These are
Okay.
about choosing a potential partner that we will then make the decision whether to move ahead with a project based on those conversations.
Yes, and it, again, the options are on the table, the options are available. We're talking about mixed income options, we're talking about mixed use options, and they were very interested presentations, conceptual presentations. And again, the decision would be to enter into a partnership with one of these very well-qualified entities for honing and public outreach and input and charrettes and all of the necessary steps it would take for the board to determine whether to move forward 1, 2, or 3 of these properties. Again, these are village properties. They're held in trust for the public. So it is a very important first step to make sure that you're comfortable with moving forward in a particular direction.
Okay, so maybe we can get a date the following week where all of us are available, so we can just go forward from there. 'Cause I think-
We'll have to circulate a bit more than that. I'm on vacation the following week, so.
Me too, but we'll figure
Okay,
it out.
we'll see what we
It's,
Find a date.
it's a problem, and we didn't want this to have to be combined with another meeting, because we understand that, these interviews generally take 45
No,
minutes
I
each.
agree. It should not be part of the meeting.
So we were
also
trying
didn't
to
wanna
separate
wait.
it and segregate it. So we'll do a poll with the administrator's office help. We'll do a poll and find out if we can circle a date and narrow it down.
Okay. Thank
You
you.
you have a very full agenda already in the last
do.
meeting.
It's only a week after the next one.
Okay, so let's move on to the actual meeting, and that would be the first item would be a public hearing. So is there a motion to open up the public hearing that involves the property known as 99 Main Street? That would be trustee Rosenberg, second, trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor. The meeting is public hearing is now hereby open.
And it's a continuation. You originally opened on the 28th. You specifically asked for some supplemental information. And also, your planner has requested from the applicant, and we have received their theoretical basis for the calculation on your pileup. And just a reminder, this is a site plan. You also serve as the architectural review board in this capacity, and they're asking for a 4th story, which is ultimately your decision and discretion, and a total of 3 waivers from the requirements. Those waivers include the size of the 4th story vis-à-vis the 3rd. They're proposing 80%. Your code has a 50% maximum. They're also asking for a pileup with consideration for shared parking. And they're also asking for a waiver in terms of the size of the studio apartment. You have a requirement for 800 square feet, and they're proposing 460. I have it.
But just so we don't revisit all of the items we previously discussed last time, what we left on this agenda was the discussion of the parking.
Right.
And how the diversity of commercial use and residential use parking plays out here. Weren't 100% certain about what our code allows, and we were really looking to discuss that
Right.
rather than these other items in more detail.
Right. So, I had some questions regarding, from Valerie, maybe Valerie, you could shed some light on it, but do you just for the record, could you just make it clear again what your parking plan is?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pete Gulick from Mike Lewis Architects here in Dobbs Ferry, presenting 99 Main Street for our client
Can we
Genesis.
turn the mic up a little or something?
Talk into it, yeah?
Talking a little closer.
It's weird.
We were here on May 28th in front of the board, and we presented the project after the AHRB and Planning Board unanimously recommended it, including waivers on 3 building issues, but not the PLOP issue. So since we've been before the board, we've revised our drawings as per the recommendations of the board and also the Westchester County Planning Board review. We've responded to the Westchester County Planning Board review formally, and also consulted with Dan and Valerie about the PLOP and parking issue. So tonight, we're here to discuss the parking, the 3 variance waivers, and any other questions you may have. On the PLOP, when we looked at the different ways that you can sort of chip away at the parking requirements, the main one that we came up with was the shared parking. And there's a section in there that calls for, if the office is shared with residential, that there's a 50% reduction on the residential requirement, which is 5 parking spots. And we proposed that through the shared parking. And the shared parking is where someone from the building, 2 people from the building, we propose the smallest unit and the unit that has to walk the most to 4th floor, share that with 2 people from the offices who are also driving furthest from the office. So that's how we would propose to have that shared parking. Of course, they'd have to determine how exactly that arrangement would be when they put everything together and the, condo documents or whatever else they're doing there. But that's the proposal on the parking requirement that we were asking for.
Okay, could we just hear from Valerie on that issue?
Sure, so the,
Valerie, for the benefit of the people who are here, can you tell us who you are
yeah,
and what
sorry.
role you play?
I'm Valerie Vanastra, the village planning consultant from Nelson Pope and Voorhees. So the planning board reviewed this particular application. They thought the payment in lieu of parking, what was being was presented in terms of the shared parking seemed reasonable, but they wanted the village board to ultimately make that final decision, and they did not offer a specific recommendation. Both Dan Romer and I looked at their proposal, and they would technically meet the shared parking requirements. The biggest issue that we had were because there's more residential units than theoretically they would be offering the parking spaces for, is how they were going to dedicate those, those 2 parking spaces into which units. If you decide to move forward with the payment in lieu of parking, assuming that they pay only 3 spaces instead of the 5 spaces, then I would recommend putting as a condition of resolution that 2 of the spaces have to be dedicated towards, one for 2 different one parking space for 1 residential unit for a total of 2 residential units having dedicated parking.
So just so I'm clear, that really for us, it would come down to whether they pay a pilot for 5, whether they pay it for.
That's correct. That's correct. And their position is that they're requesting for 3 because they already have 2 spaces, and 2 spaces during the day can be used for the office, and then 2 spaces for the evening for the residential uses.
Which is also allowed by our code.
Yes.
So
I just don't know how that works in reality, to be quite honest.
it's a great question.
It actually, well, I mean.
It can work really well or very poorly.
Right, I mean, what
depending on-
typically happens is
you work
you
from
have a use that theoretically is completed by the time the peak use of that residential would come into play. So, clearly, if for some reason it's a Saturday and the office is open on Saturday and there's residential there, that's something that would have to be worked out. But you could have something in terms of, like, a lot of times, like, landlords will say, at night, after a certain time, this now becomes a resident parking space instead of the office.
So then the resident can't use the parking spot during the day, because then it's for someone in the office,
Well, I mean-
even if the resident is taking the train to work and doesn't need the car because they live 2 blocks from the train station? Okay.
I mean,
Okay, so
theoretically, I mean,
that's-
that's just, I mean,
Or working from home.
Yeah.
right,
That's the theory.
that's the
Or
theory.
The
is sick
theory,
that
the theory
day.
behind this is that people who have cars drive them to work, so they won't need their spot during the day. And people who are coming to work in the place drive there
Right.
because they live far away.
That's theory, I
It
mean,
works
if
well,
you,
no, it works well in a very large
large
scale.
space,
Right.
Right, so if you have a large parking lot that you're
Right.
sharing with the commercial space for a residential space, there's
Then there's
overlapping
enough
work.
spots that it
When
does,
it's
right.
2,
Right, so that's
it
what I'm asking.
gets challenging, because
Right.
if there's one condition, the whole system breaks down.
Right.
I mean, whole system,
Right.
there's
If-
2 parking spaces. but,
if
you know,
the
Someone's home
board-
sick,
theory
and then
doesn't
I
work
think
anymore.
everything
Yes.
that's-
right, if the board does not find the proposal to meet, like, basically to be sound in terms of what they're proposing, then they would have to pay 5, payment in lieu of, for parking for 5 spaces.
So the parking requirement is for the residential units.
That's correct, the new residential.
So if, just to like flesh out how this works in reality, so could we put as a condition that the residential unit gets the precedence on the spot if a condition like this comes up? Is that something
it's a
that, so
priority
that,
or-
Yeah.
that way, like,
Yeah, you could do that.
if someone's
They're
traveling,
still gonna park on the street.
no, but then the commercial person, then the
Has
office,
to find another spot.
they.
But
if
the
so-
resident doesn't have to
just-
find another
Just
spot.
like with anyone traveling to Dobbs Ferry to work in Dobbs Ferry,
Mm-hmm.
they have to find a parking spot in one of our municipal lots or on the street. This person traveling to the office at this building would have to find a street.
that's
I
fine.
think we're getting too.
Well, I'm just
we
saying-
should be involved in that.
Yeah, we shouldn't be, I think we should just decide to give them a break on the pileup or not.
But I'm saying, I'm
Like, not get
comfortable,
into that.
but I'm comfortable
I just
giving
wanna
them the
understand
break
this.
on the
Yeah, me
pileup
too.
if the spirit of the pileup is that the residents of Dobbs Ferry are getting the parking that we are saying that they're entitled to, or we are getting payment otherwise, that we are entitled, that the village is entitled to, then I'm comfortable with it. I'm less comfortable with it if, in the scenario where a resident is being shortchanged by a shared space. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's what I need to get comfortable. So
I
that's
know,
what I'm-
but,
So
but
my-
the possibilities are so varied and conditions change so much over time. I think that us, like, you know.
I don't need to get into the data, I'm just saying, if, you know, as you point out, when there's only two, you have one, you know, kink in the system and the whole system falls apart. So if there's something like, you know, in the case of whatever, the resident vehicle takes precedence, you know,
I know, I don't know how we
Could we
get
just
involved
take a
in lease
consensus?
contracts with a.
Can we just take a
landlord?
consensus
Yeah.
of that? 'Cause- so, I mean, my sense is no, not to give that, I would say they're responsible for all five, so I don't know. That would be my point of view.
I agree.
I agree.
I'll split the difference. I would say just, they're asking for 3. There is some, it is in our code that this is allowed to some,
Right.
so I would
Yeah.
maybe
You
get
can find it
get
the
offer
two.
4.
You could require, as a condition of the site plan approval, that they post for residents' use only on one of the 2 existing
Yeah,
spaces.
that doesn't, Jessica, what would you, if we're gonna vote?
I mean,
also think
it's
there are
either in the
people
code
who
or
don't
it's
have
not.
cars,
So,
too.
like,
Well, it is, I mean, it
if
is
it's in the code, then we don't have.
Well, no, it's in the code as an option for an applicant to present a scenario in which they could be shared. And it's up to the applicant to
We have the option to
document,
give that
right,
variance.
But you don't
basically,
have
but we
to.
don't we're not gonna.
that's
Also,
correct.
just
It's
point
not
out
a
the.
right, is what you're saying.
Right, that's
Yeah, but I also just want to point out the planning board thought this was reasonable. Just,
Okay.
you know,
But they didn't say, they said, let the board decide.
They did on this particular, on all the other waivers, they recommended, but that one they did. heavily. And I think it was mostly because of the same situation that you're grappling with, is that it's only 2 spaces, right? It's not, you know, a 10-space parking lot in which you have more flexibility, right? There is
So
that.
the reality is, they're not meeting my point of view, they're not meeting the requirement under the law, which we have in the law for a purpose, so they're not doing that. They're saying, well, they're gonna share it with somebody else, but the reality is, how are you gonna share it with somebody else? So my vote would be no, just keep it 5, the way the law says, so. And I think Matt said the same thing, I think Larry said the same thing, so one more person says the same thing.
And in the context of this project, there are a number of other variances that they've asked for, and we have,
I think we're gonna get to those.
Waivers,
but
they're waivers.
but, I'm sorry, thank you, the
Thank
waivers.
you. We have no authority to give a variance.
I'm sorry, yes, thank you. And it sounds like the discussion has generally been to grant those waivers. So I think in the universe of what has been asked as far as sort of non-standard operating, you know, I'm happy to go with, you know, they haven't met the requirements, they should meet the requirements, we should get the 5.
Okay, and I totally forgot Nicole, I didn't.
You're very
Totally
small,
for-
Nicole,
Yeah,
up there.
you've been,
You're
you're so
tiny.
So what are your thoughts? I'm sorry, totally forgot.
I'm happy to go last. It never happens. I'm not sure it matters what I think on this
It
issue.
always matters what you think.
There's a consensus already, but I'm kind of with Michael on it. I would probably split the difference.
Okay.
And make the restriction, the sign restriction that one has to be.
Well, I
reserved.
mean, to Valerie's point, like you guys, the board speculated about what you could or could not do with these two spaces, but it's really for the applicant to tell us what they're going to do with the two spaces, and they didn't. So, I mean, unless they have something different to add about it, I mean, I think that the concept when it was written into the code was pre-COVID when everyone worked in an office or had to go somewhere for the most part, and the work world has changed now. And so the idea that people, I mean, I work from home 5 days a week, right? Pre-COVID, I went to the office 5 days a week. So I think the concept of somebody using it for business during the day and residential at night because of that is kind of in the past, but I still would just cut the difference. I think it's reasonable to do so, and the code allows us to do it.
You know, it also could encourage someone to start their car and drive it 2 blocks so they have a place to park it during the workday, which is not great
Okay,
environmentally.
so I think we have a majority on that issue. So let's go to the other
Wait,
two.
so you
We're
have,
not going to,
so you're going to require a pileup for 5 spaces?
right.
Okay.
Or they could
Don't say it.
dedicate, well, I'm sorry, but the.
Is there an or?
The alternative is that they dedicate those 2 parking spots to residents and not to the people who are working in the business. And then it's 3 that they would need. So what we're saying is, the consensus is no shared.
Right.
Whether it's, if they want to pay for 3 instead of 5, then the employees have to go park in the municipal lot. If they want to pay for 5 instead of 3, then they can have them for employees of, of the business.
So, like I said, there would be you would require as a condition of the site plan that they place a sign on the 2 existing spaces that are reserved for residents.
If that's what they want to do, they have a choice.
You have to
No, we
decide.
have to decide.
If they are designated for residents, then they have to be designated for residents, and whatever we need to do
They would
to
need 5.
ensure
Right.
that
Which
they're
dictates-
designated for residents, if that means putting a sign there, great, then yes.
No, I don't think it works that way. I think if you're saying, if there's, it has to be 5, you can't say those 2, it's not gonna be a shared situation.
Right.
So they are required to have 5
They're saying-
parking spots. They
They're
can,
actually required to have
7.
but because they have
They're
2
adding-
already for the
How much
businesses,
pileup?
the
They're
5
adding 4
additional.
dwelling units, that would
I'm
require
sorry.
5 spaces.
I miscounted. 5.
So we're leaving it with 5, that's the way it is, 5. Okay, that leaves 2 other
So,
issues.
3 other.
We're moving on past the 5. You have to come up with, you gotta pay for the 5. Okay, so now we have
Or I
2,
could do a plea for 4.
so the 2 issues left, Valerie, check me on this, 2 issues left are the height of the building and the size of, if we grant the height, if we grant that, yes. If we grant the 4th story, though, we have to decide if the size of that is okay, because he proposes something that's bigger than what the law permits,
But
right?
it's a consensus, we didn't.
Right? And then,
Decision.
the size of the studio.
The size of the studio as well as the increase from
is what we discussed
the
last
other
time.
unit where it's
thought we were okay with it.
50% of the floor beneath it and it's
Right, so I have a resolution that I want to do today, so I just want to make sure we are all okay with that. So I don't think we're a problem with the size of the studio,
I'm
right?
fine with
None.
the size of the studio, I'm fine with the 4th floor. I think the design is beautiful. It's certainly a lot better than what's there now, so thank you.
I have one quick question, which I think I know, for Lori Lee, which I think I know the answer to. Can you confirm that this does not set precedent for somebody else to have them come along and say, well, you gave that waiver, now you got to give me a waiver, if the board doesn't think it's appropriate?
correct. In this case, and that's why I took the opportunity to redistribute the original materials with the request for that additional space. And you'll see he's justifying that because, as they explained, they could have built a solid wall in the back, and they've stepped it back.
That's, you don't need.
But that needs to be in your resolution.
Okay, well,
They
that's why you're
provide
writing a
that
resolution.
Sufficient, they provided sufficient evidence to show the need and how that's ameliorated by the stepping back.
Yeah, basically the lot, downtown, you could do 80% lot coverage. So the light pink shade here is how far they could have gone back. And if we did do that, then the 4th floor could have even been bigger than it is now. But in keeping it smaller, that's one of the reasons that the AHRBPB I think, thought that that waiver was okay.
Okay, this
We're
board
the
is
AHR.
acting in
Yeah.
the capacity of
We are the AHRB.
the AHRB.
Okay, so I think we're okay with the other two situations. Mike, are you, as far as the AHRB role of it, are you okay? I know you had a concern about the windows. Are you okay with anything else?
No, I think I just had a couple questions that seemed pretty clear. I think I think the building is done nicely, so
Okay.
We had noted and revised those, Michael, that you were talking about the side, or the south side, just to put the score lines in and a little more detail around the windows with
Yeah.
sills and lintels.
And I think the last item was just the screening of the rooftop mechanical equipment.
We'd
He
also
said he
put
was
that
gonna-
on, yeah. I think I've got it noted in the drawings and on the elevations, but we've got that around the HVAC units that are on the top there, so that they're screened.
Okay, any other comments from the
So that
board?
will be that's a condition as well, the screening
Correct.
needs
Yes.
to be depicted? Okay.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Any questions or comments from the public, since this is a public hearing?
I do have one comment when you're finished with the public.
Steve Tilley, 22 Elm Street. And I think this is a good project. And I'm here as someone who's a special view of the Hudson River that I've enjoyed for 35 years is blocked by this building. And it's blocked by the as of right, not by the fourth story. So those are the breaks. And I'm going to spare you a couple slides, but I'll send it to you because it set me to musing about, when we did the LWRP, Elizabeth and Nancy Vitagliano and I mapped all the views of the Hudson River from public spaces, which are hundreds in the village. And there are these surreptitious and surprising views that should be taken into account at both the planning board level, and I've been sort of out of pocket since March and unavailable, but that should be very carefully thought about. And as I thought about the sort of what I call the grandstand theory of the river villages, and which was completely screwed up in Yonkers when they built the wall along the Hudson River, so that then when they start doing residential developments back on the hillside, you can't see the river. That we should be thinking about that terrain, and I think in the future, looking at Main Street, especially, while in this case I think it's benign, one should think about granting the fourth-story waiver on the east side of the street, but not on the west side of the street. Being very careful about this as a precedent for other sites along the west side, because if you think about the grandstand, you've got the aqueduct, you've got things above the aqueduct, and you've got this view shed. And if you start elevating the extra story on the west side of Main Street, you're starting to run the jeopardy of people's views from up the hillside. But otherwise, this is a great architect and a good project. I'm concerned, as you are, about the pileup of pilops, and I'm trying to convince, Kevin Hart at the little barn that we're doing, he's going to be finding a place for a parking space with an easement so that we get rid of that pileup. Because I think we should have spaces available for Jessica's cheese store and for the other businesses in town. And too many pileups may lead to, a congestion getting to those shops. In any event, this is a good project, and I really support it.
Thank you.
Twice, when we were 37 is up by the Historical Society. You know, they've got 26 is another view corridor. It's listed on multiple points in the street. You
Right.
can't really see. So,
Right, yeah.
You know, we had discussed that and
Yeah,
even
yeah,
looked at.
You architects can discuss this
You can come up on the floor.
outside or whatever. You guys-
I would have charged you for that view.
Okay.
But I
Otherwise,
hope-
we're gonna
we
be here.
enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Patty,
I,
Patty, go ahead. Patty has some comments.
Yeah, I just
Tell us who
really,
you are.
Patty Steinschneider, Gotham Design, and a resident here of the village for a long time. I think this is an excellent project. I think they've done a really, really good job. I think the village, I know they're only advisory, but I think the planning board, you know, was reasonable on this and did a good job of trying to work out how you make these things work. And it's, as Steve was pointing out, it's a challenge when you're trying to balance a lot of different things, but we need this kind of development in our downtown. And this is great, and they should be encouraged. And I just want to say thank you to Peter and Michael in the office. Thanks.
Anybody else in the public want to comment on this project? Anybody online? Yes? Okay. Okay, let her in and let her comment. Christy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hey, this is Christy Nell, 257 Palisade Avenue. I just wanted to express slight concern over the fourth story variance or waiver. Just as Larry asked, does this set a precedent for future projects? No, it doesn't actually set a precedence legally, but it does set a precedence in terms of what you see on Main Street and that you see that there are fourth stories. And so it does set a precedence that developers could potentially continue to come and get fourth story variances and waivers to have more fourth story buildings. And in the vein of what Stephen Tilly just said, in the views, having it on that side of the street is even more problematic than the other side of the street. So I just want to express concern over having another potential partial fourth story building because it continues to come in all the projects in the downtown. And now there's just gonna be a bunch of them.
All right, thank you, Christy.
Christy, we did think about that, and one of the things that we did to try to make it from the street, it really appears as a three-story building.
Yeah, I know. We have quite a few that appear as a three-story building and are still four-story buildings that
Yeah.
could potentially at some point be added on in the future and create a wall. And it's in our code for a reason. It's 3 stories for a reason. The code is arguably, almost 15 years old, and we continue to grant these variances for partial fourth story buildings. So it's just something to point out for the rest of the board to think about.
Okay, is there anybody else who wants to speak online? Okay, is there a motion to close tonight?
wait. You have a big issue that was left outstanding and open as a result of your engineering consultant's memo dated May 1st, 2024. The applicant did go through the memo, and in your submission, there were some answers that were indicated. I did speak to Anthony, the planning consultant, today earlier, and he would like to have the ability to have further discussion with the applicant's engineer, because the answers that were provided were from the architect. So in the template resolution, if you were going to move forward, I've just included a condition that would require all of the remaining issues to be settled with your engineering consultant.
You know what that was, Lori? What?
On a one-on-one, specifically the I&I, which, you've indicated that the village will be moving forward with doing an I&I survey and investigation village-wide. The county requires a certain amount of participation by within the property lines along the frontage where there is potential for I&I, which is just an infiltration into the sanitary sewer from other sources, rainwater, leaders, that kind of thing. So that issue will remain open if you were to move forward with the template just so there'd be some level of satisfaction from the engineer that that's been addressed. He didn't feel that the comments were sufficiently covering the concerns that he had about the
When you say I&I, what are you talking about? Inflow and
inflow and infiltration. That would be that which is entering into your sanitary sewer system, the county sanitary sewer system.
Right.
That is from other sources other than the sanitary effluent that would have been created from the property.
Okay. Okay.
So-
Yeah, we can have Jim Cronin, he's going to do the backwater prevention and the sidewalk details. He can address anything that Anthony might have
Perfect.
thought we didn't address.
That's all. We're just, I just wanted to point it out, that it's in there. And also, we're adding 4 dwelling units. So as a condition of the CO, of course, you have the fee in lieu of parkland, because obviously if they can't fit 5 on-street parking spaces, they can't actually identify it and fit any park land or recreation facilities on the property. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out as well. It's in the template
You're putting it
resolution.
all in here.
There's a template in there, and I've left large swaths of blank space so we can be sure that we're covering, Ms. Nell raises a good point, and your criteria is clear, and I actually put that in your template, the bottom of the first page. Your footprint gives you the criteria by which you judge whether the 4th story is appropriate under the circumstances. We had significant discussion of that in your first go-round on May 28th. So we did talk about how that this would be appropriate because it provides that level of diversity in housing stock. And also, we talked about how appropriately the applicant was proposing to hide this 4th story and camouflage it from the view shed. And, it's as of right, he can get a lot more density on the property. So you did look at it quite closely, and it isn't a precedent. You have to meet the obligation each and every time a request is made of this nature.
Okay, so is there a motion to close tonight's public hearing? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor, the public hearing is hereby closed. I think we're ready to move forward with it, and as the village attorney indicated, we do have a draft resolution that's been prepared for us that does outline the reasons why we would be willing to go to the 4th floor, why we feel that it's a benefit to the village. The village attorney also points out that there are some gaps in the resolution that she will fill in, and subject to our approval. And as you also pointed out, the engineer will have to be consulted, and he'll have to, or she will have to approve the I&A situation. I&I situation. So, is there a motion to?
And you're denying the pilot request for
Yes.
lowering to 3. So it will be a required for pilot for 5 spaces.
Right.
And that will be revised in the template as well.
Right. Okay. So, is there a motion to grant conditional site plan approval to 99 Main Street, subject to the conditions as outlined in the proposed resolution, as well as to be clarified by the village attorney subsequent to this meeting? Is there a motion? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I can't see Trustee Sullivan. Is she there? Are you there?
Ms. Nell is still on the screen. I'm not
Yes.
sure if she's supposed to be.
Could we,
I'm here, I raised my hand.
let's see you raise your hand. There you go. All in favor, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you for your time.
I'll get the revisions and red line to this circulated as well, so we can get it filed. Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie. Next item is courtesy of the floor. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak about any topic? Anybody online? Okay, let's move on to action item number 1. Is to consider a resolution authorizing the award of a contract after competitive bidding for the Public Works Project, the village-wide CCTV storm draining inspection. We have a memo outlining what was done and how much, and how they determined who the proper bidder was. So the lowest bidder The lowest responsible bidder, I should take a deep breath and stuff, right? The lowest responsible bidder was Fred A. Cook, and the lowest bid was in the amount of $440,690, which was significantly lower than the others. So is there a motion to award this contract after competitive bidding for the Public Works project known as the Village-wide CCTV Storm Drain Inspection to Fred A. Cook in the amount of $690,000. Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosenasher, all in favor? That passes unanimously.
With confidence.
Not voting for that,
Oh.
I feel like this is, I mean, my vote is,
I know, but tell us why.
I just think this is too much money to spend on an item like this. This money could be put towards the repairs that are going to be needed. I understand there's a desire for everyone to know what's coming up, but I don't think it's going to prove as comprehensive and useful as we all think it will be. It's going to identify certain problems. Those problems many of them may already be known or could be determined in other ways, so I just think this is too much money for that.
Okay, so your vote would be 6-1? Okay,
I mean, didn't we already discuss this?
yes.
We did, my opinion hasn't changed.
Okay, so you have that, Liz?
Yes.
Okay. Action item number 2 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with Atlantic Westchester for village-wide HVAC maintenance. And we have extensive reports from this company and what they will do, how often they will do it, and the cost of each one. I didn't add up the total cost. I don't know if you have that total cost.
Yes, Mayor, the total of all buildings, all village-wide owned, $38,374 and no cents.
Okay, and that's,
I have one question. There's a very convenient summary, two-page summary of each building and the costs associated with each building. But then the very first sort of sub-proposal that follows that is for the volunteer ambulance building, which I do not see on the spreadsheet summarizing the different buildings and costs. Should it be?
Yeah, it is a village-owned building, so it should be.
It's just not on the spreadsheet, and I don't know if that,
but they did do the semi-annual, they have it listed in their thing, right?
well, there's a thing here without dollars associated with it.
Right.
Okay, so why don't you clarify that? You know, are we okay with voting for it, and then we can clarify? No, well, it's up to you. I think we can vote for it, and then you can clarify it, because it seems to be included, but if you want to take a step back, we can do that.
It is the first proposal of the package. I'm just seeing what their proposal was.
They tell you what they will do, how
Right.
often.
Right. But there's
It's not in the spreadsheet, you're right.
There's just not a,
Just isn't in the
there's not a
summary page.
price in the proposal piece of
Right,
it,
or the
nor on the
summary
spreadsheet.
page.
So just want to make sure that we've got the total cost. I don't want to delay this. So I think your suggestion of asking the administrator to just square it up is fine, but I did want to note that it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so is there a motion to approve this subject to the village administrator clarifying the matter regarding the ambulance?
I would say more broadly, like, just double check all of the village buildings against the inventory. No,
sounds
like in case anything else is missing.
Okay, trustee Rosenasher, second, trustee Patino, all in favor, that passes unanimously.
I don't know who's speaking, but I can't hear because they're not at the microphone.
Margaret says there might be a missing page, but the labor and materials is the same, ends up being the same as the other schedule.
Okay.
There's just no line item, that's all.
Right.
I just saw small font, but on page 12, the agreement signature, It looks like the proposed amount for the ambulance building is $1,220.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I was left off the main spreadsheet.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, action item number 3 is to consider a resolution to award the bid for the summer camp transportation services. So this is the memo that you gave to me, right? Okay. So.
And it's to award a contract.
So I have a memo from Kendra dated, Kendra, who is the superintendent of recreation, who dated to June 11th, 2024, saying that the Recreation Department put out a request for proposals to provide transportation services for the summer camp, which were due back Friday, June 7th. 2 quotes were received. Royal Coach Lines was the lowest responsible bidder with a total cost of $51,580. She's asking that the board approve the awarding of this services contract to Royal Coach in that amount. So is there a motion?
Hang on, I mean, I have a question. After that horrific accident upstate last year, we talked about it a little bit, but can you confirm, Kendra, that that Royal Coach, the winning bidder, does have the highest safety rating, or at least an acceptably high safety rating from New York State?
Nicole can't hear you. I'm sorry.
There's a letter in our packet for anyone who would like to see it, according to Kendra.
No, I think she said she can provide the letter.
Yes, they provided a letter with that information on it. I can forward it over to you guys.
Kendra, how does this match up to what we paid last year and what we budgeted for this year?
We actually paid $75,000 last year, and that was because the day camp went on trips also, but this year they're not going on trips, so it is less.
Cool. And matches up with what we budgeted. Cool.
It does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, and just in the resolution, anywhere it says bids, should say responses, because we didn't have a public bidding process. We did a request for proposals, so you're awarding based upon an RFP, not a public bidding process. It's a slight technicality, but I just wanted to be clear for Jeff for purposes of his record keeping. This is a award of a contract based upon an RFP.
And according to what I was handed, we're asking for that a cushion of 10% or $5,158 be added to the approved amount to cover potential differential and final costs.
And that was because sometimes, like, we will have to change a trip, and so if the weather is bad, we might send them someplace else, so the cost might increase, or sometimes parents beg us to take their kids, and we end up taking extra kids, and we may need an extra bus or something, so that just gives us some movement there.
Okay,
It's a contingency? 10% contingency to the contract, okay.
okay, so is there a motion to award the bid for the summer camp transportation services as outlined before? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Galen, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 4 is to consider a resolution accepting a grant donation from the JCK Foundation for the renovation of the basketball court at Memorial Park. We have a little bit of background on this. Is anybody here from the JCK Foundation? Anybody online? Okay, so we want to thank them for the donation. I know they had a fundraiser where they raised $40,000 towards the renovation of the basketball court at Memorial Park, and they're going to contribute that to us. We, the village, will pay an additional $40,000 towards the project, and we will we are grateful for that foundation for the money, and we will put that towards the park, and I think we have an expected date when that will be done?
We're hoping to get it started within the next 2 weeks.
Get any idea how long that will take?
The anticipated timeline is about 2 weeks.
Okay, great. So again, we want to thank everyone who was involved with the JCK Foundation. We want to thank everyone who donated to the JCK Foundation, and we certainly will put the money towards the good use of redoing that Memorial Park basketball court. So is there a motion to accept this donation from the JCK Foundation for the renovation of the basketball court at Memorial Park? Trustee Taylor, second. trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Action item number 5 is to consider a resolution to adopt the rules and regulations for rental of the Embassy Center and add to the suggested fees to the master fee schedule. We do have a memo from Kendra dated June 11th, where she lists the fees, and she also included a copy of what the application is and what the people who want to rent the embassy are required to do. So does anybody have any questions or comments before we go forward with this?
Yeah, I just have one question for I understand the kitchen additional fee. There's obviously some more maintenance and cleanup. What is the rationale behind the sound system fee? Do you need a specialty person to come and turn it on and off? Like, why?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We need somebody to unlock it. It's currently in the back closet, so nobody could just access it. So that's why we would charge.
Okay, that makes sense. I just didn't know why we were charging. I just assume if you're using the whole facility, you probably need that anyway, so.
I have a question. Why is the rule against alcohol? Where does that, I see that it apparently applies to all village facilities, but I wasn't aware that we had that rule, so I'm just curious where that comes from, and are we bound?
You never could bring alcohol in there.
Yeah, I would say for legal reasons.
Yeah, it's a public building, and specifically, if you're being asked to consider an event that serves alcohol, for example, at Waterfront Park, then there has to be the licensing from the Alcohol and Beverage Commission specific to that event, and it requires the applicant to take on the responsibility for
So
security.
wouldn't we have the
That's why I
same,
never had a party there.
so why wouldn't we have the same policy here?
It's because this is, all of the public buildings, alcohol is prohibited.
But why wouldn't we have the same policy in our public buildings that we have in our public parks?
Because the public park regulations were presented from the Park and Rec Commission. So it has to do with the regulations, larger regulations and your liability insurance policies, et cetera, et cetera.
So
But
there's no like specific rationale why buildings should not, why you shouldn't be allowed to have alcohol subject to permits and insurances in our village buildings like you can in our village parks? Like if we wanted to change that, we could. Is that correct?
you would have to have a series of obligations to create barriers, a beer garden, that there are a certain amount of rules. I'm not 100% sure that you can actually permit the service of alcohol beverages in public buildings.
Well, you can look.
I have to look into
Yeah,
it.
you can look into that. I mean, in the future, if you wanted to have a wedding there, I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
in theory,
Right.
you could garner a larger fee if that was of interest to the board. So I just want to be clear, so like, there will never be any alcohol at the Embassy Center, is the, according to these rules.
As of right now, yes, but we can look into that, changing it. Okay,
That's the rule, though.
okay, if we decide to go that way. So are there any questions or comments on that? So is there a motion to adopt the attached rules, regulations, and fees, and instruct that the fees be added to the master fee schedule by the village clerk? Trustee Galen. Second, trustee Rosenberg. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Are you done, Kendra?
More than done.
Sweet dreams.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Action item number 6 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to accept funding under New York State's Law Enforcement Technology Program. Chief, I know you are here. It looks like we've gotten a grant in the amount of $100,000 to, given to the police department for use, pretty much what you wanted to do, right?
That is correct. Not matching funds. It was just something we applied, and yeah, we were awarded $100,000. So I'm seeking your permission for Rob to sign off on the paperwork so we can receive that money.
Do you have any idea what you're going to do with the money?
I do have a couple ideas. I thought I would discuss that at length with the village administrator, and see
You can
what works
open a-
best.
Open a bar in the police department?
That, no, I
No.
can't do that.
So,
Right next to the weapons closet.
That's right.
Oh my God.
The evidence lockers.
okay. So is there a motion to
May I
authorize?
just say something? May I just encourage Chief Guevara to consider items that are not about public surveillance and rather other items? I see there's a number of things on here, and it's that, start to creep into, the sort of over surveillance possibilities. So I just encourage you, when you do speak to the administrator, to take that into consideration, that we prefer, or I'd prefer to see this in things like body worn equipment, lighting systems, things like that. Communications, equipment for managing your information as opposed to UAV surveillance and those sort of types of things. Thank you.
I would also ask if it's possible to use some or all of the money to offset what would have been expenses out of the budget.
I can find out. I believe it was for new equipment, but I can check for that.
There's a significant amount of new technological equipment in the budget, so could be a possibility.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it does say software applications, development, deployment, body-worn equipment, lighting, so.
There's a lot of possibilities, yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the village administrator to accept the funding under the New York State Law Enforcement Technology Program? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item, by the way, we would
That's a
encourage
great
you.
thing.
Right, I was just gonna say, we do encourage you to look for more grants. and that was
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. Action item number 7 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute a public-private partnership agreement with River Arts. That would be in the amount of $3,000, where we would donate the money
No,
to,
we don't donate. We exchange money for the services provided by
you're
the
right.
River Arts.
I know.
For the
I
benefit
got
of the public.
donations on my brain, so thank you. So,
We take donations.
We welcome.
yes, so in the amount of $3,000, we would be entering into a public-private partnership with River Arts. Are there any questions or comments?
I would just say this is something we've done annually for a number of years in support of the programs that they provide throughout the village.
Okay, is there a motion to enter into this agreement? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Galen, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an annual maintenance agreement with Central Square for the record management system used by the Dobbs Ferry Police Department. So we have a memo from, well, actually a bill from Central Square, and we have the resolution that states what will be done and how much it will cost. I think it will bring the annual cost to $19,923.45 to help the Dobbs Ferry Police Department in their record management system called Impact 2.0. So is there a motion to have the village administrator execute an annual maintenance agreement with Central Square for the record management system used by the Dobbs Ferry Police Department in the amount of $19,923.45? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 9 is to consider a resolution. I think the Mercy University had applied for a grant, and they were awarded it along with the Dobbs Ferry Police Department in the amount of $6,300 to cover the cost of travel for one Dobbs Ferry police officer to attend training over the next 3 years for training purposes. So again, we want to thank Mercy University for doing the grant and getting the award. And Chief, I'm sure you cooperated with the school on that. We want to thank that. Again, that would relieve, hopefully, the village of any costs. So we appreciate it. And is there a motion to accept this award of $6,300 from Mercy University for a police officer travel? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes. Thank you again. Action item number 10 is to consider a resolution to schedule a public hearing for July 23rd to consider a local law amending the zoning provisions for purposes of clarifying and removing redundancies. I think this is part of an ongoing project that we've been doing regarding the zoning code amendments.
And these were specifically the ones that you authorized us to move forward with, these mostly housekeeping, checking on redundancy, making clarifications, so things are no longer confusing.
Okay, so is there a motion to schedule a public hearing for July 23rd? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously, so that'll be added to our July 23rd meeting.
25th,
What?
23rd. 23rd. Yep.
Okay, action item number 11.
July or June?
What?
July or June?
July. We need to up to 30 days, it has to go to the
Alright,
county,
thank you.
so
Thank
we
you.
have to give ourselves time for it to be turned around.
Thank you.
Action item number 11 is to consider a resolution to join the municipal group self-insurance program. So if I understand this correctly, Rob, it is less expensive, it's more, it's beneficial to the village to join a self-insured group than to have a policy with a carrier. We're going to join with PERMA and other municipalities to administer our workers' compensation and some other disability programs. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually called the Municipal Group Self-Insurance Program. It's not really a self-insured insurance, even though it's a misnomer. So PERMA is a employee reciprocal. So bottom line is, it's not really considered a self-insured, even though it's named that way. This is just a New York State requirement to have this wording in the resolution, similar to what we had last time with compliance as well. It's a New York State requirement.
Okay. So is there a motion to have the adversary join the municipal group self-insurance program? Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 12 is to consider a resolution for a shared services intermunicipal agreement regarding the establishment of a curbside collection of food scraps. And Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the villages of Ardsley, Hastings, Irvington, Sleepy Hollow, Tarrytown, Elmsford.
Yep.
Have all joined together. We got a grant for this, and all the other communities have already committed that they're going to go forward with it. So now it's our turn to commit that we're going to go forward with it. And we're going to first put out a request for a report to see how feasible this is, how much it will cost, and what it will involve, how many trucks will we use, can we share trucks with each community? As we do this, how often will we do it? But the first step is the study.
That's correct.
And what's our share of that? Because the grant, I think, was 95,000, but I think we may have to foot some of the bill, right?
I think it was pretty even across the board, divided by 7.
Approve payment for this study?
Excuse me?
I think we just talked about it in a discussion, in a workshop.
We talked about it at a workshop.
This is the implementation.
Yeah.
I see.
It took a while to get to this point, but everybody, all those 7, including us, are signing it this week to get this back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. When we got the tonnage that we're incinerating, that turns out to be food scraps, the number's huge. So, I mean, I
takes
think
it
we
right-
have to do this study. I mean, I think it's a great idea that we move forward with this.
No, it takes it out of the waste stream. I think it's a great grant program.
Yeah. So is there a motion to have the village administrator enter into a shared service intermunicipal agreement for the study of establish a working plan for curbside collection food scraps? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item 13. Sorry, guys, you had to wait so long. If I would have known, I would have moved this to the top, but I'm sorry.
Could have raised more money.
Probably have school tomorrow, but now you have an excuse, so.
We'll find the slips.
Do you all want to come on up to the microphone, or do you have one person? Whatever your plan is, come
Everyone,
on.
come on up.
I say all of you, come on up.
All of you.
This deserves a photo.
Thank you.
Yeah, so should we take a picture?
Tell us who you are, what grade you're in, what this is all about.
Okay, so hi, we're all juniors, and we're with the Dobbs Ferry IB CAS program, which stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service.
And your name is?
I'm Lily Williams Amin. This is Finn Carlson. This is Clara Kubina. This is Melanie Miatowitz, and this is Isla Baird.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Someday, at least one of you will be sitting up here, I guarantee you.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, we've made it look really awesome to them.
Okay,
You get
and
to sign IMAs?
That's right.
Go ahead, we knocked you off your game.
okay, no, it's all good. So basically, we for the CAS program, we're all IB diploma candidates, and so we have to do a project that sort of exemplifies one of the three, either creativity, activity, or service. But our project sort of encompassed all three because we chose to do something related to the environment, but then all of us really like art as well. And so we went to a cleaning up event, a tree planting event in Chauncey Park, and we basically played music and brought together some art from local artists, and we sold it there. And we made money to benefit the Dobbs Ferry Tree Fund. So more trees can be planted in Dobbs Ferry.
And you're here to give us $710?
Yes.
That's fantastic, we really appreciate it. That's great, we could always use the trees, so, thank you. You have the money with you right now?
We already gave it.
It's no big check.
There's no big check, I'm sorry.
Didn't want to bring cash to the meeting.
We appreciate it. Why don't you guys, we really think it's a great idea. We wish,
Awesome.
we can't say enough about what you guys did for us. We really appreciate it. We will make sure that it gets used appropriately and that you guys get notified of it. And does anybody else want to say anything?
This is clearly the best part of the meeting. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
For them, you can do both. but-
We were excited for
Clearly the
it too.
highlight.
Yes. We were waiting for this moment.
All right, so stay
If I would
there.
have known, I would have had you guys number one. So we're going to do a picture.
We're going to do a picture for the
You're going to be in the newsletter, so
See trees.
no, it's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Usually I have a joke where I say you could stay now or leave till the end of the meeting, but you guys stayed almost to the end of the meeting anyway, so go,
Thank you.
please.
Thank you.
The future's in
you.
good hands. Thank you.
Yes. You're going to sit up here and say, remember when we were here?
We have to take a resolution?
No, we didn't get there yet.
Oh, thank you. So is there a resolution to accept a donation of $700 from the Dobbs Ferry High School?
710.
It says here I know it's 710, but here it says 700. $710 from the Dobbs Ferry High School IB CIS program for village tree conservation. Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? Well, thank you, we're all in favor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Action item number 14 is to approve the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. Normally, I would ask Jeff if there's anything unusual. The fact that he's not here may be a sign that,
Straightforward.
but is there a motion to accept the audit of claims? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously.
I got that postcard from Hawaii. He's doing really well.
Action item number 15, is there a motion authorizing the village administrator to enter into an agreement for the 2024 MS4 program update assistance? I know there's been some changes, and I know this is not to exceed $7,500. Any other questions or comments on that?
Can you explain what this program is?
Sure.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. It's the program by which the village is regulated through its storm water impacts. So it requires annual reporting and inventorying of the volume of stormwater. And as you know, when development comes in, each of the developers is required to meet our MS4 regulations. So we have to report that we have accomplished that.
Okay, is there a motion to authorize that enter into agreement? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I'm going to add another action item to the agenda, which is concerning Chauncey Park. So is there a motion to add this as agenda item number 16? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. This action item is added to the agenda, and this is a resolution to authorize the village administrator to engage Ward Carpenter Engineers for surveying services in connection with the acquisition of surplus property for parkland. I think in order for the county to give us the property known as Chauncey Park, which is right alongside the Sawmill River Parkway, behind the Danforth, we have to do a survey to show that what exactly we are accepting and that it's
The
lien free.
Department of Transportation Surveying Services is requiring us to just confirm that what we're acquiring is set back more than 30 feet from the travelway of the Sawmill River Parkway.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the village administrator to enter into this agreement? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We can do a quick trustee liaison report. Trustee Galen.
We had a fabulous day with Phoenicia Flea and River Arts on June 1st. We got a great turnout, both at the waterfront and at the two Cedar Street stages that River Arts put up. And there was a shuttle going around between the waterfront and the downtown, which was really lovely and just shows us what we can, more programming that we can do in the future that can close the gap between those two important areas in our village.
Okay, sounds great. I want to thank you for all the efforts that you did on that, certainly, and the village staff for everything that they've done on that.
Huge effort on their part, yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
The traffic committee met since the last meeting. One of the things that we talked about, which we'll be presenting, the traffic committee will be presenting as a memo in the next week or so, is regarding the intersection at Ashford and Storm Street that has the new bump outs. While the bump outs are considered to be perfectly visible from a traffic engineering point of view, there are some things that the traffic committee is going to recommend to increase that visibility even more. So there will be a memo coming to the board regarding that. Nothing expensive, I promise.
Trustee Taylor.
Just one update on the Climate Smart Community grants. Two smaller grants are evaluating things. The Sustainable Jobs is working with the village staff and administrator, and it looks like a big chunk of that money is going to go to electrify lawn care and related outdoor equipment for the DPW. So our parks and streets will be a bit quieter than they have been.
Yeah, that'd be great. Trustee Patino.
No, nothing to report.
Trustee Rosen Asher.
I was fortunate enough to attend the barbecue for the seniors on Friday, and they had a lot to tell me and a lot to share. It's always great to be down there. There's a lot of great energy, and I thank Abby Kinnett and her whole staff for everything that they do every single day. It's really amazing. The Human Rights and Diversity Committee, we're all thrilled about the crosswalk, so thank you so much to the DPW for that. Greenberg Pride is June 23rd at the waterfront. It's going to be a great day. Hope everyone will come out for that.
Will there be a parade this year?
Not a parade, walking to the
Walking
waterfront.
to the park.
Trustee Sullivan.
Yeah, there's an annual meeting for the Dobbs Ferry Youth Services Coalition on Thursday, June 13th, from 6 to 7 at the Dobbs Ferry Public Library. They're going to have a special presentation by the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Agency, and they really want the community to come out, meet them, and talk about what works for them and what people want to see from the coalition. And I sent you an email, Mayor, because I need you or somebody on the board to attend for me. I'll be in the air.
Wait, I just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
On Monday at 2 o'clock, the county executive will be doing his normal 2 o'clock briefing, but there's also going to be an update on the downtown improvement grant and two of Dobbs Ferry's Best will be there, Christine Allen, Rob Janable, to give an update on how it's going in Dobbs Ferry. In addition, there'll be 2 people from Bedford, so if people want to tune in, 2 o'clock on Facebook Live, to know what's going on, it's very exciting.
That's great, yeah. I just want to make a brief announcement regarding the federal, state, and local primary election, which is this year, June 25th, 2024. However, you can do early voting starting June 15th, 2024 through June 23rd, 24. There will be no early voting in Dobbs Ferry. You should be aware of that. You can go on to the westchester.gov
It's in Hastings.
voting, yes. It's in Hastings is the nearest one. There's also going to be, and I can go on and on where they are, but the closest one is Hastings. Greenberg Town Hall will also have it this year. So again, early voting is June 15th through June 23rd. The regular vote, which can be done in Dobbs Ferry, the polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on June 25th. So I just want to say there is no early voting in Dobbs Ferry. Yeah, that's about it.
And
So-
Mr. Mayor, just so everybody knows, that information is posted on our website on the homepage under Village News on the right side of the page when you look at it.
Great, thank you very much. If there's nothing further, is there a motion to close?
I have a
tonight's-
question, Mayor. Are we going to an advice of council?
We are.
I just don't have a link for it unless it's the same one as earlier.
What did you say?
Is it the same link?
I can't hear and we don't have closed captions.
I don't know why we don't.
We can call
Okay,
you
we'll
on
call you.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to close tonight's meeting? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Galen, all